Down two starters, Iowa gets its first road win of the season as they go into New Jersey and get the win against Rutgers, and an emotional Fran McCaffrey. What's up with that? We break it down today. Locked on Hawkeyes.
You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm Trent Condon, and this is the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. We're available wherever you find podcasts. You can also watch us on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button while you're there. If you're listening on the audio side, hey, we're looking for some new reviews out there. Hit that up on the Apple side of things. Really do appreciate it and helps us get in front of more Hawkeye fans. Today's episode of Locked On Hawkeyes is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com for more. Well, we are into it, and how about that one? Iowa gets the win against Rutgers, their first road victory of the year, and it wasn't just that Iowa had been losing games on the road. I mean, that's a characteristic that a lot of teams certainly go through throughout the course of the season. It's hard to get wins on the road. It's a difficult thing, and if it was easy, well, we wouldn't be talking about it. But here we are watching this Iowa team come out there and respond, trailing 10-2. And we got a lot to get into. We're going to talk a little bit, the women back on the hardwood tonight against Rutgers themselves, though this one at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Going to talk about that. A little NFL draft combine to get into as well. And, of course, we're going to talk about what we saw after the game and Fran McCaffrey and just the emotions and some questions that are there. But in the here now, let's kick things off just talking about this game and talking about what we saw out of this group, because I think it bears a conversation. This was a gritty win. This was a gutty win. This was something, frankly, I didn't know if it was left in this squad to do what they did against Rutgers. Now, Rutgers has two incredibly talented players. Harper, Bailey, those two guys are absolute studs. They're going to be both lottery picks, maybe even both top 5 picks. I saw a mock draft yesterday that had them going 2 and 3 in the upcoming NBA draft. And you saw the talent of both of those guys, but you also saw the negativity that goes along with it. And Somerville's a nice big body. He's also a freshman. Remember his dad, Marcellus Somerville, led Bradley to the Sweet 16 after starting his career at Iowa, redshirted his first year, and then under shady circumstances left the program, tampering from Jim Les in that Bradley program. And what could have been? He helped lead Bradley to a Sweet 16. If he was on those Iowa teams, we could be having a whole lot of different conversation. But that's maybe an off-season topic that we can talk to. Let's get back to the game. And right away. So, as I'm sure many of you might have been doing, got home from work, had already shoveled in the morning, had to get back at it again. Well, a lot of people here in Iowa, and of course, across the Midwest, free people live outside the snow area. Congratulations to you. So, wanted to get a little more shoveling done, though. So, listen to until the first TV timeout, the under 16 on the radio, and listening to Dolph was gone as he continues to recuperate after the leg surgery, I believe it was, that he had. So it was Brooks along with Bobby Hansen, and it was very uncharacteristic Iowa. And I went back and watched it then after the game, and just seeing them turn over the basketball like that. So they're playing without Drew Thelwell. You're already down Owen Freeman. Now you're down Drew Thelwell. I've maintained Drew Thelwell throughout the course of the season has been my favorite Hawkeye to watch throughout the course of this year, not just because of the high level of play that he has, but also the tenacity, the ability to get up and defend, the intangible things that he does, really like Thelwell. You're playing without him. And they turned it over 4 times in the first 5 minutes or so of the game. It's just so uncharacteristic of a Fran McCaffrey team. And right away, the thought for me went to, well, this team's cooked. It's over. This team is not going to respond again. You look back at what they've done on the road. Blown out by Ohio State. Blown out by UCLA. Blown out against USC. Blown out by Wisconsin. That has been the slate. The one high water mark was when they were getting blown out against Michigan. Came roaring back and had a chance to win that one. Remember, that was also back in the beginning of December, which feels like a lifetime ago. So that's where we are. And down 10-2, they didn't quit. This game was a lot of Josh Dix. It was a lot of Payton Sandfort. It was an absolute team effort. And you're going to need that when you're down like they are, down two starters. Dembele maybe had the game of his career. He was outstanding, and not just the 9 points that he had, the up and under move that got him the first bucket of the game, late in the game, getting the jump ball, getting the timeout to go along with it, getting Iowa that extra possession where Rutgers, if they would have got the ball there, down two, we could be having a completely different conversation. But he played good defense. He was engaged. I thought Dembele was certainly one of the bright marks of this one. Seydou Traore, still need to give him the minutes. This is a guy that we need to find out exactly what he's going to be going forward. He is an important piece to this Iowa basketball team. But with Traore, now you see a guy, the athleticism, he was rebounding his ass off. Love to see that out of him because he needs to do that. We're not talking about an incredibly skilled offensive player. There's athleticism. There's a guy I think that can develop into at least a decent three-point shooter. He's not there yet. But with the Play-Doh that he has, right, and you're trying to mold it together, you see that this is a guy that there is upside. Keep giving him those minutes as he played 25 last night. Dixon Sandfort, as Iowa goes, as these two go, that's how Iowa goes. And when they go off and combine for 46 points, you're going to be in good shape. You need this Josh Dix every time. And certainly now down Freeman, he just has to be aggressive because we've seen it too many times in the course of his career. Things aren't going well, starts to retreat, isn't aggressive. When he's going well and he's aggressive, he's as skilled of an offensive guy as you're going to find. The mid-range game is elite. He's a good three-point shooter on top of it, and he was outstanding again last night. And mention, again, we're stacking up some quality Price Sandfort games now. Going back the last two games, Price has played back-to-back really good games, and though he didn't shoot it well from the outside, got to the rim a couple of different times. Like to see that as well from Payton Sandfort a couple of different times. Beautiful play late in that game as they curled him around and got him an easy bucket. And both those guys, not just being reliant only on being three-point shooters, but having the versatility of an offensive game. And on the defensive end, what they did to this group and made it difficult on them, to get going. And you throw this all together, and Iowa comes back and gets this victory, heads-up plays, good defensive stops. I thought they bothered both Bailey and Harper at different times in this game, but they did in a game where they shoot 7 of 25 from three, including one stretch where they missed 14 straight three-pointers. If you would have said coming into this game that I was going to go 7 of 25 from three, they're going to miss 14 straight at one stretch, I said, how much did they lose by? Was it 15? Was it 20? Was it 30? No, they won. Tip of the ball cap to this squad. The perseverance to stick with it. I didn't know if it was in them. It was. Credit to these guys. Carter Kingsbury came in. He gave them a good 4 minutes of action. Evan Bronze beating Somerville down the floor for a dunk. That was great to see. He went in there. He was active. Mulvey came in and did his Mulvey things as an extra big out there. Look, when your bench after Price Sandfort, your 7 through 9 guys comprised of Evan Bronze, Riley Mulvey, and Carter Kingsbury, it's not a group you think are going to go out there and win a road game. It wasn't obviously them alone, but they were able to get it done. Big win for this Iowa team, and really puts them now in perspective where they are at minimum a realistic chance now to make the Big Ten tournament. A better chance than not of making the Big Ten tournament. As we've talked about, the bottom 3 teams in the Big Ten will not make the Big Ten tournament. Teams 16, 17, and 18, you're out. With this win, I was in good shape. Need at least one more. Washington likely amongst them, but do you want to start to get a little silly? We've done crazier things here. Let's do that as we continue. Fran McCaffrey after the game. We saw a side of Fran McCaffrey we very rarely see. Emotional Fran. What do we read into that? Speculation time. The future of Iowa basketball and what the rest of the season could unfold. We'll do that as we continue on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. As we flip the calendar and continue to go off, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started. And there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game more exciting. In fact, last night, I took a shot with the Hawkeyes. I thought they had it in them. They came roaring back, and it absolutely came to fruition. You can do that with the live betting feature. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Trent Condon back with you, Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you are on the podcast side, hit us up with an Apple review. 5 stars is what we're looking for. If you can, really do appreciate that. After the game, goes final. Here comes Andy Katz. And I anticipated we were going to get a typical Fran McCaffrey post-game. He'll talk about the guys. He'll talk about the standard things that we get. A lot of times in an interview like that, Fran does give thoughtful answers, but to see emotion from Fran McCaffrey like that, to see tears, and not just eyes welling up, actual tears running down his face. This has been a trying year for Iowa. This has been a difficult year. I thought coming into the season, this was going to be an NCAA tournament team. I said as much, and I believe that there was enough on this squad that they were going to get it done. It has not gone that way. There's been tough losses. There's been blown leads. There's been big opportunities earlier this year. We mentioned the Michigan game, the Iowa State game, and how well it stretches they played. For the first 12 minutes of the game against Wisconsin on the road, they played great, and then they didn't. The wheels fell off out west. Owen Freeman has shut it down. Now Thelwell's hurt. We know all season long that Payton, Sandfort, and Josh Dix, both of those guys have been banged up. It's been a trying year. It's also been a year where Fran has had a lot of his family gone. And as his son goes through his final season of high school basketball before getting ready to depart to Butler, we have seen a different Fran McCaffrey, as we talked about a lot. Stoic, certainly not as agitated, not as red-faced. We don't see the same Fran McCaffrey that we've seen in the past. And though that started to change a year ago, it's gone to a completely different level this season. Times look comatose. I don't think it's a stretch to say we're seeing a different Fran McCaffrey. Is that suddenly in his mid-60s, he matured, he changed? It's highly doubtful that that happened. I guess you could go down that path if you wanted to, but something is different. And it led to me looking at Fran McCaffrey and seeing that kind of emotion. Look, we didn't see that kind of emotion when Patrick was going through cancer treatments. We didn't see that kind of emotion with guys that were incredibly important to the program. Because that's not Fran. We see it with Kirk Ferentz, right? We see the tears. And we saw more and more of the tears that went on. But we also saw that guy with Kirk Ferentz when he was in his 40s and 50s, not just late in his career as we see in recently. That's always been a part of the DNA, the coaching DNA of Kirk Ferentz. Not the case with Philly. East Coast, Philly tough, white magic. Fran McCaffrey, that is not an emotional guy. He's got that chip on his shoulder. He's got that toughness component. And it led to 2 thoughts. Either it was just that. It's been a trying season. It's been frustrating. And finally seeing a group down 2 starters get a win on the surface, you could understand that. But they've had moments like that. They've had big victories like this that seemingly come out of nowhere. And we haven't seen Fran McCaffrey act like that. Leads to the speculation. Fran McCaffrey, does he know something that we in the public don't know? Does he know that it's coming to the end? Does he know he's in Iowa City art? Does he know something we don't? That is not the Fran McCaffrey that we're used to. And because of that, I completely understand why people are thinking that, because I had the exact same thought. We're not used to seeing that for Fran McCaffrey. And because of that, I think a lot of people are wondering, does he know that the end is near? Does he know that they have come to an agreement? Has Beth Getz already let him know that it's not going to happen. It's speculation. This is no insight. This is no insider knowledge by any means. That's not what this is. But it's a thought that at minimum, I think bears a little bit of look because we're just not used to it, right? We're not used to seeing Fran McCaffrey do those types of things. And yet we did on that one. This team the rest of the year. So another road trip coming up this weekend. On Sunday, they'll go to Maryland. Maryland is playing well. They got a big one themselves tonight against Nebraska on the road before coming back home. Maryland is a tournament team. Maryland is a lot of people's team that they're picking. If you're looking for a dark horse in the Big Ten, maybe to make a run, to an Elite Eight, the Terps are getting a lot of the conversation. We'll talk a little bit more about the matchup. It's unlikely that Iowa's going to win. They're projected to be a 12-point underdog in this one. Iowa still, even with that, is now projected to be underdogs in 5 of the last 7 games that they have remaining in the Big Ten. 5 of the last 7. So 7 games left. What would they have to do to get back on the bubble? They probably got to go 5-2, which seems like a stretch. So not only beating Oregon and Washington at home, Ducks were in the top 15 for a long time this season. They've fallen on hard times. Washington's probably the worst team in the Big Ten this year, and certainly are by standings. So that means, all right, put those 2 in the win column. You got to find 3 wins out of this group. At Maryland, where you're a 12-point underdog. At Illinois, you're also a 12-point underdog. At Northwestern, Barnheiser banged up, maybe. You get Michigan State at home. It's a home game, okay. And then at Nebraska. Look, I am not predicting or projecting that Iowa's going to do anything close to this. But a little bit of hope, a glimmer of hope. All it took was one road victory, right? We're right back on the bandwagon again. Dix, Sandfort shoot the ball well, knock down shots. They lead the scoring load. What we've seen out of some of these younger guys. And remember, this is still a young team. Yeah, Sandfort, he's a senior. Freeman is, Dix, is a junior. But outside of that, Harding, sophomore. Traore, sophomore. Price Sandfort, sophomore. DeBelly, sophomore. Riley Mulvey, juniors, barely played. We'll see. I don't anticipate it. I don't expect it. But I got that glimmer. Maybe, just maybe, they can go on a run. The likelihood is this is going to end maybe a postseason team. What other things, speaking of the postseason? I saw the jokes were out there. NIT, here we come. Remember, there is a difference this year as it pertains to postseason and a new tournament. And this is not the CBI or the CIT. That's not what this is. There is a new tournament called the Crown. And the Crown Basketball Tournament is an event that's being put on by Fox. Fox is putting this on. It's going to be not right away after the season concludes. It's going to be towards the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4 of that period of time. 16 teams are going to make their way to Las Vegas. It's a single elimination tournament, 16 teams in the bracket, but it's going to be comprised of teams from the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East. Who has TV contracts with Fox? The Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East. So instead of seeing Iowa, Indiana State, Iowa, Valparaiso in the opening round of the NIT, now with a little bit of time maybe to plan to get out to Vegas, Iowa likely is going to be in this tournament. I believe that the Big Ten is going to push very much for their teams to enter this as opposed to going to the NIT. Don't know exactly how it's going to work. And in fact, we should do a little more investigative work about the way that this is going to look. But if you're thinking it's NIT or bust, watch out. Might have something coming out your way. We continue Locked On Hawkeyes, more basketball talk. Plus, we got some football coming your way as we got some invitees to the NFL Combine. Talking football and women's hoops as they get ready for Rutgers tonight on the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast. Back one final time, Locked On Hawkeyes. I'm Trent Condon. Thanks for being with us and making Locked On Hawkeyes your first listen every day. So tonight it will be the Iowa women against Rutgers. This is going to be a different one than what we saw on the side last night on the men's side of things. Rutgers is not even a top 100 team at the efficiency numbers from Bart Torvik. We talked a lot about this Iowa team. Look, Iowa's projected, according to Torvik's numbers, by 21.7 points. This should be an easy blowout victory. This and the conclusion against Wisconsin. Both games at home, those are the easy victories. And tonight should be the same. The way this team is playing on both ends of the floor, the freshmen all knowing the roles. It's been incredibly fun to watch everybody grow. And now during this 5-game winning streak, which should come a 6 tonight. But then we go to next Monday. And put this on the calendar if you haven't already. Maybe you need to take an extra long lunch. Maybe you need to block off some time and make sure you don't have any meetings happening. But on Monday, that Ohio State matchup, a Buckeye program that wants to get Iowa in the worst way, that's an 11 a.m. Central Time tip-off. It is President's Day. It will be broadcast on Big Fox, so that's the reason for it. But 11 a.m., if you missed that one, that road trip out to Columbus next Monday will be early tip-off for that one. Then the following weekend, it's UCLA coming to town, and then the road trip out to Michigan before the aforementioned matchup against Wisconsin. Iowa should dominate this game. This should be an easy victory. I don't see any major concerns about it. Just keep it rolling. Keep Lucy Olson doing her thing. You feel really good about that and the way and the play that we've seen out of her. Maybe get Hannah Stolke going a little bit. She struggled last time out, 2 of 10 from the floor. Get her going early on. I think you're going to see plenty of that. McCabe, the hot shooting that we saw last time out. This team, they're fun again. It's fun to watch what they've been able to do. Losing's never fun. Winning's a lot more fun, and it's good to see that. We should have an easy victory you would anticipate tonight. We will be back with you, though, with that one coming up. With an Instant Reaction podcast coming up this evening into tomorrow, and we'll have you covered on that one. Also want to mention what we have with the NFL Draft Combine. So no surprise that Iowa has a number of invitees. Kaleb Johnson hasn't been invited, the fine running back for Iowa, and I can't wait to see the way that he tests and some of the numbers that we're going to get. Luke Lachey going to be there at the tight end position, going to continue on the long lineage. Of course, a great tight ends at Iowa. Connor Colby gets an invite. Was never a guard, a tackle, but played really well at guard, and he'll be a guy potentially that could hear his name called a little bit later on. Y.A. Black also going to be there for the Hawkeyes, along with Jay Higgins, and then a couple of defensive backs, Sebastian Castro and Jamari Harris. So all those guys got the invites there, about 350 invites that are given out. That is big, obviously, for those guys to get their opportunity at the NFL. Really looking forward to that. We'll continue with the coverage. Scott Docterman is going to be at the Combine. Always great to catch up with Scott Docterman and talk about what's going on that front. We got you covered here on Locked On Hawkeyes. Your team every day. That's what we do on Locked On Hawkeyes. Thanks for being with us. What a big victory for the Iowa men. In the grand scheme of things, does it change anything? Probably not. But for a night, it's good to have fun with that squad. And we were able to do it with the win against Rutgers. We'll be back with you as we are each and every day tomorrow. Until then, go Hawks.